The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi Rogers, can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Today, the 31st day of this particular month of March 2025, the Umeme, a company that has been working to distribute and all power things and distribute electricity and power to various homesteads in the country, is going to be marking its exit from Uganda's market economy. This South African company will be handing over to the government of Uganda through the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited to be able to do everything that is required of electricity or power supply in this particular country. This comes after 20 years of service by Umeme that has been serving over millions of Ugandans. During their tenure, we have seen extension of electricity. We have seen the redefining of how electricity is actually bought or consumed in this country. And many Ugandans have been celebrating that particular institution. Today marked the end of their operations, but the question is, what next for Ugandans as we enter a new cycle of government being at the helm of electricity and power distribution in Uganda? That is the topical discussion for this evening, and we're going to be highlighting everything in that particular regard. Please do follow us on our social media platforms at The Alternative Uganda. That is on Facebook, but also on YouTube. We are streaming on all social media platforms, so you can find us there. But we also have another page. It's called Digitalk TV. So you can view us on either platform. It depends on what you have that is comfortable to you. Send us your messages, feedback. I'll be reading them subsequently. I can see a couple of people here tuned in. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have a question, query, remark, or anything really, feel free to send it through our social media platforms. I'll be able to read those messages and more. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. I'm always here every Monday from 7 to 9. We have different political parties, and we bring representatives from those political parties to just paint a picture of how the country is moving on. And of course, we also want to have solutions to the various challenges that this country continues to grapple with. I will open up this discussion by also wishing you a happy Eid. Yesterday, Muslims around the world were celebrating Eid. And of course, that's always a time of celebrating and remembering the days of fasting after a while when we were having the Ramadan period. So Eid, a special Eid to all of you, the believers, and everybody who celebrates that particular day. This evening, I have most political parties here represented, UPC, NRM, and UPM, a political party that we seldom listen or hear about, Uganda Patriotic Movement. If you don't know that political party, it's the political party which Museveni used in the 1980 elections, and he stood for presidency using their ticket. So we have a person who's not new to this particular show, and of course he is from UPM, that is Afande Vianney Ngoma. You're most welcome, sir. Then I also have the director for the NRM External Affairs. He is a lawyer and a counsel. He is an ambassador as well. He is a retired soldier, former Kadogo, of course, retired Major Pollar, which I always have to talk about that as well. You are a child soldier. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good evening.
And lastly, definitely not least, the chairperson of the Uganda People's Congress, that is Joseph Ochieno. You're most welcome, sir. Pleasure having you this evening.
Pleasure to be here. It's a big job to be flanked by two big names from NRM and NRM UPM.
Yeah. Can we say that there is a multi-party dispensation and Uganda has evolved to a point that UPC, NRM and UPM actually talking and deliberating on issues? Can we say there is a win?
No.
And this is to you, sir.
No, Ugandans are fantastic people. Questions of political parties, political organizations, political ideology, or perhaps even this very particularly sad one, which is the politics of identity,
Yes.
necessarily is the thing for average Ugandans. But people in politics tend to use partisan division to break up our people and then to seek power. Thankfully, politicians who are not people in politics, politicians who are people who are driven by values and ideals, would never use those because they'll speak issues, and politicians, you find them in UPC.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Namrembe Angela, you are watching. Mwesige Joram, you are watching. Francis Botebi, you are watching. That is a member of parliament. Tale Jude, Omuntu Wawansi, Tumwebaza Godfrey, Brooke Williams, Chikomeko, thank you so much for watching. I'll be reading some of your comments as we continue. This evening, I'm privileged to have Mr. Vianney Ngoma. This gentleman was an observer in the previous elections of Kawempe North constituency. He wrote a report that he handed in, and I want to just take a few minutes to help us understand what were some of your findings, because I was privileged to meet you the day before the campaign itself at the venue, the Tally Center, and I was having an argument with you saying that you do your work of observing and you write these reports, but do they even matter? Do they even change a thing? But first, what were your findings and what next?
Creator Sieno is laughing. Now, the problem is one.
Yes, sir.
Legislation is a legislation of having people suppressed. So election observers should be an independent entity checking and making reports that could go direct, not even checked by parliament, assented to correct the situation. Because since 2021, where election suppressions and killings were registered, reports, we handed them in, but it didn't change. Instead of changing, in the by-elections of Kawempe, it escalated to Abzak, to the highest battlefield and ground because without fire and arms, iron, no elections was expected to take place. And the electoral commission, as I am saying, is no longer an electoral commission, because they had a separate meeting after when nominations were made by arrests, illegal brutalization of the candidates and supporters and even voters before polling day. They sat separately with the security. Because for me, I was an observer, I wrote direct a letter to the chairman EC requesting him to give us the resolutions they had and directives with the security incommunicado within their enclaves, their boardroom. He didn't even release. Tomorrow I will share that later with you. Now, when we were at the eve of elections, because the chairperson and the commissioners must first share views with us, observers, the candidates, and their agents.
Yes.
We questioned him that the involvement of military, RDCs, and other security armored personnel. I don't think armored are those machines, the human beings, because those machines cannot bring themselves in the field involved. Then the chairperson responded that that one does not concern the electoral commission. He used the legal term best known to this senior council, that it is a preserve of security.
Yes.
Himself is no longer there.
Yeah.
Which means whether he likes or not, they must come. Their activities, whether the electoral commission wants them, must take place, because himself has no any way or any enabling law helping him to check them or even caution them. And after when they misbehaved, as they did, the electoral commission is not coming in to caution, to check, to punish. It is only going direct to military. We are seeing echo of cosmetic echoes from the military circles saying that they are going to take, they are investigating.
Yeah, because these people are commanded, and Yabakama cannot command them.
No. The electoral commission, as I have recommended, me alone, because I don't want to involve others, I have recommended that we cease having an electoral commission appointed. Let people like these ones come with their integrity, sell it to the voters elect the chairperson, deputy, and the commissioners. The public service can bring these technocrats, the ITs and what. And within the IT, I have recommended that every registered political party must bring their technocrat to represent them there. And in the data processing of electoral commission, every registered political party or political organization must staff there to help us. The electoral commission cease from managing it as its own personal affair. Now elections in Uganda is an affair, is a mandate, is even a product of the electoral commission. This is why we have received embarrassing results.
Okay.
The returning officer gave us a declared results. Gazetting of the chairperson, different results. I have already cautioned on that one. How comes this one on the Tari Center declaring this one? The one who has been remitted the results, which I am sure already see if they are like a chameleon, they change within the transmission. But the one who gazetted the results which are beyond the ones, and at the Tari Center, I don't know how it came about. there was some of the DRA forms that were contested. These ones who were at the polling station have different. This one remitting different, which are being read.
So one political party also says that they were free and they were unfair and not free, those elections. And
the law separates
so, as you're
regular,
saying,
free, and fair.
according to what you're saying, that means there are some inconsistencies.
It was
here and there.
not even regular, free, and fair.
So does NRM have a point?
Yes. Who appointed them? If it was mishandled by the Electoral Commission.
Since NRM wants to go to court,
Yeah.
since you're saying there's a lot of irregularities, so
am I
does
saying, is it
NRM have
right?
a point?
For the
Yeah,
NRM,
yeah, to say that
because you have
for the-
qualified them.
Exactly,
You have
that's the
qualified
basis.
the need to go to court.
for the NRM to go to court
Just a minute.
was crying for.
But you said there was.
No, but you have registered.
But you have said everything was
But
wrong.
the machinery that was oppressed was not NRM
Okay,
candidate.
lastly, Matovu, there was also
So
another.
an unaggrieved party to go to court.
Okay,
I
my
am
question
not sure.
is, there is also another election that was there, the one for the councillor, Kazo Angola. Did you notice what transpired in that election?
Where a big agent of NRM, where Honorable Bargahari, where he was, that's where that councillor got problems. And
Kazo Angola.
and the flag bearer
Of
of NRM. Yes. That's where that polling station was vandalized
Yes, that's the point.
by the order and instructions of Honorable Bargahari. And even the boxes were shattered and innumerable arrests conducted. So going to court, they were trying to beat the conscience of the observers.
Okay, as we are speaking right now, they have withdrawn the case. Let me bring you in. Honorable
they
Joseph
have
Ocheno.
lost
They have
the
withdrawn
case.
the
No,
case.
when you withdraw, you have lost.
Okay.
That's how they lost.
Honorable
it.
Joseph Ocheno,
They have lost the
is
case.
there something you want to add on as we also talk about other issues?
Not really, but to the extent that I find this a very deep topic. We thought we had sort of left it behind, but considering the fact that we have
an observer on
authoritative observer with so much detail, warrants a revisit. And why? Because, as I said, Mr. Museveni went to the bush in 1980, allegedly on the grounds of rigged elections. And, you know, the result of going to the bush has been massively atrocious to this country. People died in Luweero. People died in the environs of Luweero. People died at Kampala, where NRA sent little boys and girls to throw bombs in the streets of Kampala. The economy suffered. Yes. The image of the Republic of Uganda suffered. I will say it for the first time officially on television, that amongst the key things I spent my sad exile from NRA was actually trying to demystify the myth that NRA had painted extremely negatively about the previous Ugandan government, particularly led by UPC and Obote in the 80s abroad. Terrible image, to the extent that I can't go to some because some of them I have to write, that I remember meeting, and I don't want to go too far, I remember meeting a very senior member of a revolutionary global political party that UPC massively supported in the 60s and early 80s. And we met at a conference in London, and this gentleman was sort of telling me that, oh, you know, sort of we betrayed them, meaning, and it took a conversation, because I was generally shocked in the conference, it took a conversation after tea and me again later revisiting their country for this to come out that actually it was froth that what they'd got. So he had this thing that, look, you know, in the 80s, about the government, you know, the government was so horrible, and in any case we had lost elections, which wasn't. Fast forward, you know, I've said for 45 years. NRA cannot single out one parliamentary constituency of 126. They cannot. And I've challenged Museveni, I've challenged his lieutenants, I've challenged his legal guys, I've challenged Utafere withdrew out of this kind of thing. I've challenged our terrible friends in DP who cleansed the process of bringing in Mr. Museveni to prove one parliamentary seat, which was rigged in favor of UPC, number one. And number two, one parliamentary seat in which the irregularities, the kind of the crude war, of course not, the crude war we saw in Kawempe, one parliamentary seat in 1980, where the kind of irregularities that happened in Kawempe did happen, resulting in a UPC victory, but which, if there was a by-election, the outcome would be the other.
Okay.
It didn't exist. To the extent that 2 years later, Obote called a meeting for religious leaders and other stakeholders to try and create a settlement, and asked Paul Semugere, and that's why I say so strongly, and Paul Semugere died a friend, that look, if you have substantive evidence in the presence of all religious leaders, including Cardinal Subuga, if you have substantive evidence, my suggestion is you go to court. But in the preparation of bringing this and gathering into this August meeting, if it is found out that you have critical evidence enough to change the figures, my government would resign, pending the process of even going through the process of court processes.
Okay.
This is on the record. Semugere kept mum. That's why I said so strongly. Our terrible friends in DP. It's Cardinal Subuga who came and said, okay, things like that. So it is bad. Why? Because fast forward beyond that, the conversation today is a conversation about an economic criminality that has led us to Umeme. And what is it? Brought by who? NRA, the guys who claim they're revolutionary and liberators. Yes.
The Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karanga. We are 27 minutes into the hour of 7. These inconsistencies you mentioned, sir, have been there in various elections. In 2006, they even said they are there, but they cannot warrant us to change the results. You have seen the same inconsistencies in 2011, 2016, and 2021. Let me come to you, Director, sir. What do you think about what these two gentlemen are raising, those particular issues, the inconsistencies, these unrelenting issues that continue to come up? And what is your comment on some of his submissions as an observer?
Now,
Yes,
a few observations. First of all, the observer intrigued you, the moderator, because he elaborately said so much was wrong in the election. Now, the law says that when something is wrong in the election, you go to court. So that's why Karanga asked you, so NRM was right to go to court? Because there was irregularity according to what you qualified. You ably qualified it. So, you see, for us as a party, when we went for that election, first of all, we had at the back of our mind that this was a NUP or opposition-dominated area. And that was manifested in the 2021 election. However, what we thought was that we could play a clean game, basing on the assumption that from 2021, when we started implementing our manifesto, a lot could have changed. People's livelihood and welfare could have been improved. People could have changed their attitude. So that is why we went. And we said, fine, under new circumstance, presumable new circumstance, let's try. But it turns out that according to the NRM cadres who were in the theater, me, I was in Gulu. I was in the north for the negotiation of the 11 MPs, 11 NRM MPs who are supposed to join government. So I spent all my time in that negotiation. So those who were in the theater thought that they were going to use this emerging situation. But when the result came out, those in the theater thought they had lost the election. And indeed, they congratulated NUP. The people I'm talking about are people like Honorable Seninde, Director of Mobilization, and others, including Tang Odoi, the Chairman of the Electoral Commission. So that was what our cadres thought in the theater. Now, somehow, either intelligence or otherwise informed our national chairman that it wasn't, we had not lost peacefully. Or these irregularities that he was saying was so grave that it needed this intervention. And that is why President Museveni said an investigation needed to be done so that even NRM who were involved in malpractice should be held accountable, not only opposition. Yeah. So that is how we stopped at that. Now, so about irregularities and comparing with the past, I really don't want to go into that for now. But I want to say that it's a commitment from us as NRM that we will abhor electoral malpractice, and we don't want it. And when we go in for an election, we go as equal partners. Now, about the deployment of the military, like the Chairman Electoral Commission says, he had no power over it. Sometimes it is perceived that it depends on the intelligence that the state gets. If the state gets information that there are outside forces that would want to disrupt this, that is how their deployment is formed. But
intelligence that you always talk about. This thing
some of us are not privy to it. That's why we can't talk about the
Can't we just say that Mr. President is being lied to? Because it feels like the president has an idea of the reality on ground, which is actually not the reality. And when President Museveni comes to speak, and this is my own opinion, he speaks from a point of assurance. He believes what he is saying is actually right. And most of the times we have realized that sometimes this intelligence can be misleading. Don't you think that your chairperson is being fed with false information?
You see, it's the appointing officer and the disappointing. As his methods of checking if these intelligence officers are incompetent. In any case, you all know that these current intelligence officers are not the first. Always they are appointed and disappointed. So it is upon him, the appointing authority, to see where they lead him to. And indeed, as I repeat, these are not the first intelligence officers, meaning they are appointed. If their competency is queried along the way, they are removed. For now, that is what it was. And intelligence in this case is not about the ability of NRM to win. For example, if there was a threat that, say, a terrorist group was going to disorganize the election, to plant bombs so that election is not smooth and fair, and that would warrant a deployment. So the intelligence I'm talking about is not intelligence of, is NRM going to win or not? No. Is there any other security matter that would be planted to disrupt this? So that is what formed the deployment. Now, just a comment about his comment about the putting in place of electoral commission. Many countries have different ways of doing it, including Kenya. Kenya, it is public vetting. Yes. I don't know what it is in Tanzania, but many countries have different ways. So we believe in NRM that the law is not hard. We've been talking about electoral reform, amendment of the law, electoral reform. None of them has opened the envelope. Maybe he has attempted. But my opinion is that a law is not hard and frozen. If it is a law about forming in place electoral commission, let it be discussed by Ugandans. What is wrong with that? A good electoral commission, a credible election is good for all of us. But so far, that is what it is.
There are many recommendations that were made that have not yet been implemented by the Electoral Commission itself. But let's not talk about that.
But it can't implement itself. It is supposed to be put in place by other people.
No,
so they
have not yet been put in place. But you're still watching the Hotline Show. Gentlemen, there is an issue of HIV infections increasing, especially in rural Uganda, and people these days are forced to procure these ARVs. That's a very big issue that I wanted us to talk about. But there is a question that a gentleman called Brooke Williams Chikomeko asked. And he says, ask these guys, should Parliament accept the request for 39.4 billion and go fight in South Sudan? Ask these, I think you would use gentlemen. Ask these gentlemen, should Parliament accept UPDF request for 39.4 billion to go and fight in Sudan. I'm going to start with the fighter on the show. Major, I'll use that. Major, what do you think about the question of this gentleman?
The two fighters here.
So,
There's another fighter here.
let him start there.
When you have a number. Yes, sir.
So, I don't know whether the question tags it together with the HIV that you have mentioned.
No. That was the topic I was coming to, but I wanted us to just answer this question.
The question of whether or not. Yes. First of all, the deployment in South Sudan has followed the legal norms. The law provides that if you deploy and you have not asked Parliament, there's a statutory provision days before which you should ask Parliament. Indeed, the minister went and asked Parliament. Also, the law requires that if Uganda is to deploy an army, whether in a country, with the consent of a country or multilateral organization like UN, they're supposed to sign what is called the status of forces with that organization. If it is deployment with the UN, it is supposed to sign with UN. If it is with AU, it is supposed to sign. Now, government of Uganda signed this with the government of South Sudan some time back. Now, justification of why our army should be there was put in Parliament. As we all know, Parliament is the National Assembly, meaning not all the 46 million Ugandans can assemble as a National Assembly. They have to be assembled through their representatives. And therefore, the convincing of the 46 million Ugandans is done in Parliament. I cannot speak on behalf of the representatives. What this person should say is that he should ask his members of Parliament what are their views.
What is your opinion?
My opinion is that, my opinion as a member of a ruling party, my opinion is that the money should be given because government justified why it needed to do that. And the reasons were partly covered in the status of forces agreement. So, for the sake of the security of Uganda and for the sake of the reasons that were given to Parliament that I read, I agree that the 39 billion should be given.
Okay.
His answers, however, should also be channeled through the MPs because the MPs are in the assembly of the country. The 46 million people are assembled there in Parliament.
Okay.
But my opinion is that it should be got.
Thank you. Over $12 million, if you were to calculate approximately. And that's a lot of money. Do you think we should give this money to the operation in South Sudan?
Before reaching that conclusion, we need to know the following. From the law brought to us by a council, you sign an agreement with a party.
Yes.
But they signed with an interested party. It is being proved by Riek Machar complaining to UN the involvement of UPDF in South Sudan.
Yes.
That means they have reached at the level of mercenary now. They are with Salva Kiir
yes.
without Riek Machar.
Yes.
So that one.
Salva is the president of the republic.
No. They had a joint agreement which pressed
Cooperation agreement of 2018.
Yes, it is no longer with elective mandate like that of here. Theirs must jointly, with their cooperation they signed, agreed upon. As it is one-sided, us supporting, we are at the same time being labeled as supporting one side.
So are we acting as mercenaries?
Yes, because now I am a party. I'm giving an example. Disagreeing that I'm not in agreement with you. For you, you are paying. What does that drive to? That's what is changing it. If it was like the period of late Garang, no problem. It was joint agreement.
Okay.
Agreed by even the population itself there. So but now,
to answer the question, these $12 million, should we?
They are not supposed to be remitted for that work, because themselves whom we are there for, or as a regional security, let it be East Africa, let it be Central, let it be whatever, or IGAD, they are not within that.
Okay.
Because we should be wise enough withdraw our troops from there.
Okay. Honorable Joseph Ochieno, is this our battle to fight? But also, where do you see this ending? Do you trust your parliament and your leaders to or not to pass these funds?
Who are my leaders?
Parliamentarians, your MP. Your MP from
Those in the
Nagongera, and he's called
assembly.
Nagongera.
Look,
Those in the National Assembly.
this is a very serious matter. It's a very serious matter at a time when we're going to be discussing another national theft, how this NRA regime privatized public utilities, most of which were founded and built by Uganda People's Congress for the people of this country. This afternoon, I stopped over at a pharmacy and I was having a conversation with a fantastic young Ugandan. And by the way, these guys give me hope. 24-year-old, extremely brilliant, knows everything Ugandan, substantially thinking forward, but she's stuck at somebody's private pharmacy, a nurse, to try and earn a living. And in between the pharmacy is broken roads. In between the pharmacies are broken systems. In between the pharmacy is a house built on a gully, a waterway gully, literally a swamp. And when this house was being built, I used to pass there. It was being surrounded by soldiers, basically protecting it, meaning part of the national mafias, killing our environment. But in between that, I spent 25 minutes in traffic in Nigeria, taking the opposite route, a terrible road. I don't know how any average Ugandan citizen who travels between Kira and Chiwatule every day ever thinks and claps for NRA. In fact, guys need to examine their conscience. So if the absence of those is a question in part to resources, I don't know what NRA is doing in South Sudan. And I don't know which sensible, awake Ugandan average citizen in the National Assembly would give 12 million Uganda shillings. Can I tell you what?
US dollars, sir.
12 million
39.4 billion.
Well, in UPC times, 12 billion was quite a lot of money. But anyway, you're quite 12 million US dollars. Thanks for that. Do you know what? 3 days ago, there's a flooding in Kanjasi. I don't know whether it didn't hit the headlines. One of the young, very vulnerable teachers whom I support woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and found her child floating in water in the Shaki accommodation in Kanjasi. 2 children died, a woman died. In that flooding, none of them hit the headlines. By the following day, when eventually I saw her missed call and I called her by accident, nobody, as part of this established state, had been there, and I'm completely confident to date, none of them have ever received anything from the state as a basic intervention. These are hundreds of families, thousands of Ugandans here at Kanjasi. So it's criminal that we should be thinking about 12 million US dollars for Mr. Museveni to go and do his expedition in South Sudan. Because we know, as my good friend has said, it's a deal between Museveni and Salva Kiir. It's not a deal between, it's not a commitment between Uganda government and the people of South Sudan. Now, in any case, what is the security risk?
But he
what
commits
is what
on
is
our behalf. When the president commits,
criminally,
it's
yes.
us,
Criminally,
it's
yes. And you know what? That is one of the reasons why, and I was thinking on my way here,
Yes, sir.
I have been at the peak of national reconciliation, and I continue to moderate Ugandans. And comrade, which I say this with a heavy heart, increasingly the kind of impunity this regime commits itself to makes it extremely difficult for people like me to persuade future leaders to not seek to hold these guys accountable.
Okay.
And usually when these things happen, people say that they're being witch hunted, you know. So it's not. So in South Sudan, Mr. Museveni should be helping the peace process rather than helping one side. You know, number two, quite clearly, Riek Machar, who's a party, you know, to the peace process in South Sudan, you know, is under house arrest. And finally,
Yes, sir.
I found something very interesting, and I think this was doing the social media rounds, that apparently Salva Kiir told, and I don't want to box Comrade Rich on this, you know, that Salva Kiir allegedly told Raila Odinga that he should ask permission from Mr. Museveni on whether or not he should see Riek Machar. And I was quite surprised actually, because when Raila was setting off from Nairobi, I was generally quite optimistic because I do commentaries on some of these things and I advise on some of these regional issues. And so I actually thought that it was a very good sign and a good intervention. Yes. And even when Raila was on his way to seeing Museveni, I hadn't yet known, and I was quite happy that he was coming to see Museveni, I hadn't known that he hadn't met Riek Machar. It's a very unfair system. So the people in South Sudan, by the way, I know you're taking my time on this. I mean, you think I'm taking time. People in South Sudan are extremely angry, just as people in DR Congo are extremely angry about the involvement of Ugandans, and in this case, Mr. Museveni's regime, in our names, something that cannot be fairly explained to the people here. Finally, there is an allegation going on. There's an allegation going on that you know, some of our people are dying in Congo, and there's an insufficient explanation to our people. So I can go on and on and on. So no, I think Parliament should not approve this.
Honorable Awich, in just a minute, sir.
In a minute, one. On the issue of whether or not Uganda government signed with a partition person in South Sudan. First of all, the status of forces agreement being implemented was signed in 2014. And I do believe, because that is the agreement they are working on. Now,
yes,
a government signs on behalf of government. The Attorney General of that country is the chief legal officer of that country. So I don't know this call for Riek Machar being here and Salva Kiir being there. The state of the forces agreement between the two countries was signed in 2014. Even if it was signed today, I do not think a government is in vacuum because of an agreement. A country cannot be in vacuum. There's a government in place, there's a president in place, there's an attorney general in place. So whichever they sign, is signed on behalf of that country.
That's what I was also saying.
Yes. Two,
yes.
Is that Congress seems to import a lot about rumors. So, you know, in Parliament there's a rule that you are not supposed to bring rumors to the House. Rather, you make news in your discussion and the newspaper pick. Okay. Now he's repeatedly picking this rumor.
In this country, rumors can actually...
No.
Because of times, I'm not going to give...
By the way,
we shall have that conversation.
No, very quickly.
Julio Hill Josh is watching live from Lwemiaga, Zimbabwe. Thank you so much for watching. Honorable China, I'm going to come to you, but this time around on the issue of HIV infections, especially in rural Uganda. People are being forced to buy drugs because they cannot get these ARVs. That's one of the claims that we have got. And most of these people,
I hope Comrade Rich will not call that a rumor.
Infections. I was going to say this country, rumors actually have an element.
You are talking of a rumor in DRC. Now you are starting to import a rumor in DRC.
What do you think, sir, on the plight of these young people, or the people who have these HIV infections? What do we do if US cut funding and now we are seeing people buy?
US cut funding, and it's basically part of the conversation. I'm just quite surprised how much we need to say to talk about within this short period of time. No, if I use the word rumor, I take responsibility. But you know what? I'm partly a diplomat and a leading politician, and I know what some of these things are. We all know, the three of us know, the four of us. There's so much information we know, and we just responsibly want to hold back because we don't want to escalate issues. And some of them are very terrifying things, by the way. And so sometimes we hope that when you come to television like this, you have a conversation and hope that sometimes maybe somebody watching, or sometimes maybe some of us in the course of our own conversations, we review our own consciences so that we're able to strategically consider how best it is for us to move forward. Now, quite clearly, there was a pompous response to the U.S. aid cutting of of support. Apparently, Uganda is one of the few countries that receives the highest amount of money. Now, while the NRA guys will always boast about injection in health, which we don't see because most of it is stolen anyway, nearly 80% of our health budget is apparently externally supported. It possibly makes my point much more important, that I don't think we can afford a fancy way of going to do some kind of mercenary work in South Sudan, where there's actually, in any case, there's rumors that, okay, we can really call it rumors. There's word that actually some of these things, the Ugandan authorities are being paid cash by South Sudanese authorities. So, so there's quite a lot on this thing I'm saying. So if that is the case, that some of these things are happening, that South Sudan is paying Ugandan authorities money in a certain way, then our soldiers are mercenaries, in which case then, considering the excess of corruption, the extent of corruption in this country, you wonder where the 12 million US dollars are going to go. And so if you're going to be discussing Umeme, and we see from Museveni's own letter, we know that actually there are mafias in Uganda's establishment, then it's not surprising that our health sector is like this. Clearly, I hope it's urgent that we're able to have a national conversation where, and this is election year, where political party leaders basically table in their manifestos programs for national alternative budgets, where we scrutinize spendings in health, spending in education, spending in key public services in lieu of the donor aids.
What is the now solution we can give those people who are now procuring?
Just take a cut from State House. You know, the Burkina Faso military regime of all people cut the salaries of cabinet by 30% and doubled salaries for civil servants. In this country, maybe, and this is a big ask for the members of parliament, maybe we should reduce their pay by 50%. I don't see any justification for members of parliament earning the amount of money that they are. I'm an aspiring and desirable person to go into that assembly, and I've been before, but I don't see how we can justify the huge amount of spend from members of parliament. I don't see why we should justify the amount of money that ministers spend. Mr. Museveni's State House daily spend for him and his wife, actually, you know, his children and grandchildren moved out. You know, we spend nearly 3 billion Uganda shillings on those. I mean, let Mr. Museveni actually trim down and also live within means. After all, this guy lived very ordinarily. Some of us know before. 2/3 of the expense we have down there should go into public health. You know, there is a way in which we're able to rejiggle these things, and the only thing is that is the will and the leadership, and unfortunately it's not going to come from NRA. Okay.
Nasuna, Tahia, Twaha, Matova, I have your messages. I'll be reading them subsequently. Honorable Pollar Awich, these HIV cases are increasing, especially in rural areas, and some of the victims or people who have this particular condition are being forced to procure ARVs. This is not sustainable. What do you think about that?
You see, I attended, as a director in the ruling party, a meeting of NRM caucus in Kololo sometime last year, I think. The meeting, I think it was a meeting, or the other, it was a meeting before passing the anti-homosexuality bill. And the American government under Biden then had threatened to cut this. So Museveni in Kololo warned Ugandans, and especially the members of parliament, because they were agreeing on that bill. He said, you guys, you have the power to pass the law, but I want to draw your attention to the implication of one, that we shall be faced with managing these health matters, because Americans are going to cut the money for HIV/AIDS. And the members of parliament said, no, we want our freedom, let's pass the law. So that was the time, even before the Trump. Yes, even before the Trump. And the President Museveni said, therefore, we should be prepared to tighten our belt, because we're going to face this. Now, we pass the laws, but somehow we go through it. Now, Trump, without tagging it to the law, Trump is simply saying America first. So he doesn't see why America should be giving out through USAID. So he cut it and we are affected.
What should
now,
we do then? Because
now
that's
what
we're
we,
directly
now,
affected.
what we should do is what President Museveni hinted in Kololo. So we have to generate our internal money. Otherwise, these people will die. Now, generating our internal money is part of what Congressman said. It includes, it's a wide spectrum of things. Not only generating by revenue collection. You can generate by revenue collection, but you can also generate by cuts and changing your priorities, okay? So, and I believe that it is not only Uganda being affected, the entire world. In fact, in Africa, it's a call to Africa that we must manage our own affairs as Africa. If we ever thought we were going to depend on foreign aid, this is now a real wake-up call as Africans or as Ugandans to stand on our own feet.
Is government intentional about really addressing these issues? Because
yes, it is. It is intentional. That's why I'm telling you, President Museveni alerted us even before the cut. In fact, he alerted us in connecting it to an anti-homosexuality law.
First, we want the results.
Because by then they didn't act. The Americans didn't act. They have acted now. You see,
yes,
the President Museveni was just warning us, but the Americans didn't act. Now they're acting now. So now the warning now comes in place. You said, yes, it's now a call to say, please, can you now talk on your independence? Okay. So it is internal now. And internal revenue collection, as I said, does not only mean more URA collection, Uganda Revenue Authority collection, but it also means the prioritization of priorities, including the voices coming like those spent on Sudan. These are part of the voices. And remember, the voices that the country make crystallize into a decision. That is why you have this discussion. Who can tell? Maybe their voices will be heard.
Yeah, they will be heard.
Somehow, as a country and as a continent, we must come with a solution.
Thank you so much. You're still watching our Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. Brooke Williams, you say I personally had a conversation with many people from South Sudan. Those people are angry with Ugandan president. Nasu Natahia, you say I'm following in here at Muduma. Please ask retired Major Awich's comment and opinion on the death of an expectant mother who lost her life and baby due to traffic lockdown associated with the president movement in Kampala. We heard of that story. Then you also say shout outs to Honorable Mayanja Muzukulu wa Mukajanga. Libawa, you are watching. Then I also have a message from Twaha Matove. You say Oluzunguruka. Let's take a break. This is the Hotline Show. When we come back, I'll hear in from Mr. Matovu, and we'll also be talking about the Umeme exit of Uganda's system. Let's take a break right about now.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digital. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Gentlemen. Welcome from that break. My name is Edgar Matthew Karuhanga. We are into the second and final hour of this show, and we're talking about the current affairs in this country. As we went for the break, we're talking about the increase in HIV infections, especially in rural Uganda, and some of the accusations that these days people with this condition have to actually procure medication on their own. And this is something that is not sustainable given the cost itself of the drugs. Let me bring in Honorable Vianney. What's your comment on this particular issue of the HIV infections, and how can we go about it really?
For me, I will not handle a symptom. I will go to a cause. The causality of this is Uganda Revenue Authority. Whether you like or not, we shall fail to procure. And the government will lose that constitutional role of it, of health and security at the same time. Uganda Revenue Authority and Uganda Investment Authority, they were supposed to help Ugandans to invest. But what is in practice, Uganda Revenue Authority harasses much local investors and closes them by being, it is too corrupt. I would like this director of mine to allow people in his office who were harassed by Uganda Revenue Authority to close their business and investments here in Uganda. That's when you will know that Uganda Revenue Authority is not helping us, is helping foreigners. For the foreigners, tax holiday, free land, for investment and everything. But for us, even mine, they closed it.
So how does it directly affect
mine? They closed it.
I
called them, this Revenue Authority. I informed them, I'm here, I've started this factory. I didn't hide. The Commissioner General, Uganda Revenue Authority, sent an investigator, came. Sent the second one, sent the one to train us on a scapegoat called tax education. After that one left, they came and arrested.
I want you to link it to how it
and
affects.
When they have already, they are showing us that this government has grabbed our wealth. When they arrest you with Uganda Investment Authority, they take you, you may find my directive is not aware, they take you to anti-corruption court. Am I corrupt? If I can show you those documents, and they are terrorists, they come in a terrorist way, armed, ganged, and their arrests is not lawful. One of my partner, when they reached at his home, when he was there, they arrested his wife with young kids, took her to Nakao, closed her for the whole day. Then they went, one of our second partner, they arrested his 2 children. I don't know whether my children knows that I'm here.
Then,
or I started the other.
Mr. Matovu.
And they don't know there.
Mr. Matovu, with the fear of sounding silly,
Uganda,
I want you to link it. Please link
Uganda
it because of time.
I will link it. Uganda Investment Authority, helping foreigners not helping local investors to pay revenue, which will be converted to the money in the treasury to help government take its constitutional role of because in the constitution, heresy is for the government. Because it is expensive, it cannot be managed by a sponsor, a well-wisher, or an individual. That's why those who were making the constitution sent that road to the government to collect revenue, because now at stake as I'm talking, what caused the war and anger of exchange at Kororo with His Excellency. But His Excellency, because of those people ring-fencing him, didn't know why. Because one of the traders asked, who is leading this country? Was literally meaning that the president is an innocent guy there, but Uganda Revenue Authority is routing Ugandans, closing businesses.
Because of time, please link it.
Now,
yes.
To pay, to save them from paying by themselves, you must have an income called tax levied from the investors. Uganda doesn't have their own investors who will pay tax, and even businesses to pay. So, diplomatic relations, the deterioration of diplomatic relations, it is the one which is causing this backfire. It is being manifested and exploded by Uganda at first, being a member country of UN and other regional bodies. All regional international bodies were in Uganda. But because of us leaving our enforcers mistreating them, they all left the country.
Okay.
Which means they took an incriminating report. Which is, you know, these diplomatic people like Trump cannot say that I'm withdrawing because of this and this, cannot disclose. Can say, it's a lot of money. No, they have how they will do it. Why is it that the pinching outcry is all over Uganda?
Thank you. No, it's everywhere.
We are seated
It's
here.
all over.
No,
Thank
that
you.
one is not even showing a bad name that we are hunting for this country alone. They may say we have crossed globally and internally remit it.
Thank you so much. You're still watching the Hotline Show. I'm going to start with you, Honorable Maj Awich Pollar, which government to manage electricity in this country, it's no longer in the hands of Umeme, a private contractor. What do you think about this new phenomenon?
I think it's okay, it is normal. You see, at the beginning, some of us wondered. And that is why many voices kept saying the Umeme agreement was a raw deal. If you put it in the simplest way...
What do you mean a raw deal, yeah?
It's that government was losing money for no value. If you put it in a simple way, Umeme, first of all, doesn't own electricity. It doesn't have it. Umeme, without owning electricity, was getting lots of money for what work?
Managing and distributing electricity.
So how do you manage what you don't produce? You're not the producer of the good, you are not there. So they were just like a go-between. So, and there was debate in Parliament, and it is on record, but somehow the wisdom at that time took it that let Umeme do it. Collect the revenue. Collect the revenue for what you don't have, what you don't own. Is it yours? And it is huge money they are paid. And they get
So by that time, you didn't have the capacity to manage it. You did not have the technical wisdom.
So was the argument. But you will know that the first collector of taxes was not Umeme, we used to have Uganda Electricity Board, which I'm sure a congressman would boast about it.
Of course.
Yes. So, how can you say, therefore, that there was completely zero capacity when there was Uganda Electricity Board which was doing it? Therefore, Umeme can go. They have tried their best. We thank them for that. But now, the owners of the electricity, that is the Uganda distributor, there's Uganda generators and then the distribution. So at least the distribution are near the generating. They can be one and the same company. Okay. But you have the generating and the distribution. Therefore, if we choose to have the distribution and managing it, therefore, at least you can see that they are going to manage what they are distributing. Okay. They are managing what they are distributing.
What are some of the advantages of government over Umeme?
One, it owns it. That is one of the advantages, that it owns it. It is distributing what they own, what they generate, what they produce. That is one of the advantages.
Okay.
And also the other advantages is that the closing sum of money which was being paid to Umeme and repatriating to South Africa now remains the Ugandan money. That is it. And of course, this would be on the higher echelon, the management. Remember, Umeme management was basically foreigners. But now that means you're creating jobs to citizens. And if you calculate at the higher echelon, the amount of money, salary paid to them alone, that was a lot of money. Leave alone the profits that the company was
getting. Who?
To the ED of Umeme, okay. You know, the that board. Kind of thing, who were white people and...
Well, yes, by this moment, most of them were blacks, really, and Ugandans. Most of the people, even on the board and the technical.
No, the board is mixed. The chairman is actually Bitature.
Yes.
But the technical, just like you have Standard Chartered Bank, or even MTN, you have MTN. The echelon, you may not see the echelon, but the echelon of MTN and this are foreigners.
Okay.
Therefore, being a foreign company which was managing, it definitely had to come with their personnel, which at the highest echelon was paid a lot of money. So those are some of the benefits now that come here.
Okay.
So, and the other benefit is capacity building. Because now that Umeme goes with their capacity, the current manager, Uganda Distribution Company, now has to up their game. They have to develop capacity. And this is good for us because now we develop capacity to do our own things.
Okay. You first, as you hinted on, UEB, then to Umeme, back to UEB now practically. What was wrong with UEB then that Umeme solved that is not here today?
You see, a society is not hard and frozen. It's dynamics. And that is why I keep saying, even this house we are in may not be there after 50 years. It will be demolished, and possibly demolished, and a bigger skyscraper of maybe 50 floors will be developed. So we live in such a dynamic society. So the argument there then was that Umeme, UEB, Uganda Electricity Board, was not competent. And there were so many arguments, pros and against. And that's why I'm saying some voices then was saying this wasn't a good deal. And now if they are there, alive or dead, their spirit will come and say, but we told you. But all said that is the dynamicity of a society. What you see today as correct may not be what is correct tomorrow.
Okay.
Because society is, and that's why I'm saying even this very house we are in, will not be there after 50 years.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to come back to the inefficiency or the efficiency of government itself. But let me bring you in, Honorable Ochieno. What do you think about this new deal? Umeme exiting by today, I think by 12 midnight, the power is going to be distributed by the government of Uganda. In fact, Umeme handed over power to government of this country. Let's continue.
You know, whenever
It's not easy to hand over power in this country.
please don't talk treason.
Just a light moment.
You're a young man. Don't talk treason. And some people in the NRA would say, "Oh no. Even Besige jumped to the queue." What about you? Don't talk
Some will
treason.
say we immunized you. Let's continue. Please continue.
You know, when I leave these studios, usually by the time we shall have finished our goodbyes and gossips, you know, with Comrade Rich and others, sometimes we easily leave around 9:30. And by the time I reach that terrible place, by the way, that road is bad. Jesus, come to rescue.
Which road?
Nigeria Road? Nigeria, Chiwatule, Chira. I don't know what the people of that place have done to this guy's.
They're working on it.
So it's criminal. My car's shock absorbers. My car is relatively new, although Betty Kamia said it's my fault getting a wish. Like a wish. I was told by my mechanic the other day that I need a new shock absorber. And you can see the payments and how they go, the kind of the economic discussion we're having. But I want to tell you that usually sometimes when I leave the studios, I reach home at midnight. So it's actually possible that I reach home and it's dark. So I hope that today, on the last day of this very dubious deal, part of it is quite criminal, should be investigated, that I'll have power at the other end of Kampala, because you'll have been very exhausted with a long day. Look, this is something that should not have happened. And it should not have happened in the first instance. I have notes sent to me privately by someone who was a senior public servant, who said that the minister, the deputy minister, the permanent secretary, and another official who were involved in the discussions, the deal between Umeme and the government of Uganda, that all of them should be in Luzira.
In the Ministry of Energy?
The Minister of Energy, the minister who was then responsible for working out the deal at the time, should all of them be in prison in Luzira.
Why?
Because of the crude nature of the deal they did. And if you go back and look at the letter Museveni, shedding crocodile tears, wrote in 2018, warning about this Umeme, all of a sudden, and consider that these are Museveni's appointees and these guys are not in prison, then Museveni, if it was also not for his immunity, he should also be in prison. But one of the reasons why Mr. Museveni and his regime, all of them should be in prison, is the manner in which these guys came ideologically persuading people like my elder there that they're progressive left people, They capture power, and within 2 years, they do an ideological U-turn and go to become the perfect agents of capitalist and imperialist forces on the continent. That Mr. Museveni got a name given to him by Dr. Bote as the perfect Nyampala to Western imperialism. Meaning that these guys sought to break, as the new capitalists on town, to break everything we had built for this country. And you young Ugandans, you must watch. So we built Uganda Commercial Bank. Yeah, we built UPC, we built it.
Uganda Commercial Bank was sold to Stanbic Bank.
And Museveni and his group sold it to the
saying
Boers.
It was not making profits.
Yeah, sold it to the Boers. We founded the Uganda Electricity Board. I just got a note from a retired public servant, a she, who said that this was extremely efficient organization, sold it and broke it. I can count the public organizations and public institutions, including, by the way, even when you talk about MTN, part of my argument, and when these guys were coming, I was abroad, part of my view is that some of these things about telecommunications, we should have upped Uganda Telecommunications, Uganda, basically our former telecommunication company, to be the lead national guys, and so therefore they should be the providers, almost like mini Safaricom's of sort, but really as part of our indigenous telecommunications company, because these guys make huge amount of money, profit.
They've finally done
Isn't
what you were advocating
Isn't
for.
it? I'm giving you context.
Yes.
Isn't it the case then that now NRA gets broke, yeah, and now subjects us to go and borrow money from Stanbic? Meaning, the Boer company Stanbic comes and takes over Uganda commercial banks and rips profit of Ugandans, the things that my elder from the UPM was talking about, and rips profit, at the expense of indigenous Ugandans.
Okay.
So this is what has happened.
Just to
Now,
add on as you conclude, Nasuna Tahir says, "Oh, Meme, the NRM has prevailed by leading into money agreements, into phony agreements, and later coming around and lamenting about the low deal of government. It's like the regime is only 10 years old." I wonder what the panelists have to say about this phenomenon and the implications to the taxpayer. So she's actually backing what you were
and
also
it's
saying.
actually not that, because as I said, sometimes we don't really have to say certain things. That even up to now, part of the Umeme deal, and I was speaking to a friend in government the other day, some of these things are deals, backdoor deals. So you can see Umeme, the letter they issued on the 30th, which is the other day, and the one of 28th, they're basically effectively blackmailing Ugandans. What cheek! In my republic, and you're a private company who's in my country, and invest, and you talk like that. The sense of arrogance
Don't they have
that
a point?
Umeme is effectively daring the Republic of Uganda, the government of Uganda. It must be that Umeme is not the face. Umeme is like Loboa. Umeme is like
Pineti, you mean?
Atiak. Umeme is like Roko. Umeme is like these foreign investor projects, including, I was telling you earlier today, where you find a roadworks thing, someone doing a Fereji. You know a Fereji? These 10 little things down the road. And the supervisor of that contract, so the supervisor there is a Chinese guy. So what's going on? So these are fronts. He was trying to deliver to you that where are the Ugandan investors in the last 40 years? Where are the Ugandan investors? Where are the Ugandan businesses? Who in Uganda has systematically started and founding a business and run and been supported? And by the way, how many Ugandans, how many indigenous Ugandans have put their proposal? By the way, I'm quite surprised that it's coming from a UPM, senior UPM leader. He's lamenting like that. And I wanted actually to, I'm not deviating, because part of the prejudices that sometimes we have in Uganda, is that maybe people from a certain sub-region, maybe certain people from particular political organizations, political affiliations. So maybe people don't expect, and it's very important, my brother, you raised this point. People will not think that some people like you will suffer those kind of fates. So no, Ugandans, we are one in this. We are one in this. So where
you don't think
where
that
indigenous
Umeme needs
Ugandans?
compensation, because you hinted on it?
It was a crooked deal. It was a crooked deal, and just like a foreign date, a future UPC government, they're lucky. A future UPC government, if we came in, we would invoke this, because I said as part of the Jubilee 2000 date campaign on Africa that it was a deal between bad lenders and illegitimate borrowers. And in any case, we did debt cancellation, it ended. And we're now so highly indebted that people are again beginning to ask for debt.
Yeah.
Why? Because we're not dealing with the underlying issues. So back to the Umeme thing, I'm saying these Umeme things are fronts. Just imagine which private company, which Ugandan private company would go to South Africa and talk that language? Which investor? And by the way, I'm reasonably global, and normally I invoke this to qualify what I'm saying. I don't see how Toyota UK, or Nissan UK, or Nixon Germany, Dixon. I don't see
there's a way
how.
they're speaking.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. By the way, their languages would be more diplomatic
I felt like this
political
was like
leaders.
someone is holding you and saying,
Precisely,
you either do this or you don't. You have my money. But if it lapses, and
That's
even,
correct. And just to finalize this,
yes, as you conclude, sir.
I'm not surprised that when I even look at Mr. Museveni's letter of 2018, that maybe I might even be compelled, Ugandans might even be compelled to think that because people are asking, why now for Umeme, you know? People might even be saying that, well, maybe this return to Ugandans' hands is another deal. People are making money.
No, because also the new electricity company has the word limited at the end. So I'm asking, is it limited by guarantee or by shares? Who's the owner of UED?
I don't know.
That's what let me first bring it.
Just to conclude, if you don't, just to conclude, that's what I'm trying to say. That look, why don't they simply just return these things to Uganda Electricity Board as it was?
Okay.
We resume. Museveni apologized to Ugandans, says we got it wrong. We're ideologically in whatever. We had froth. You know, Ugandans. We played you guys up. We apologize, let's start afresh. Okay. Because you know what? It's not a foundation that was not existing. All these things existed before and they were excellent.
Okay. Honorable Vianney, what do you think about this phenomenon and why the mistrust? Why is it that people mistrust government?
This phenomenon,
yes, sir,
as it goes to Mekantayo, it was an economic plunder and scavenging hunt of the economy of Uganda.
Yes.
When there happens a problem in economic terms, you don't constitute another body. You correct within house and continue. Because when you create another body, it becomes exorbitant and expensive. And you start afresh and incur an economic loss. Umeme was a scavenging hunt because Parliament investigated and summoned the shareholders and the board of the directors of Umeme failed to surface. They even went to South Africa and failed to get a company registered there called Umeme. You go and get records there. They are there. You are a journalist.
Yes.
You go and help us. You are the ones who help us in your investigative journalism to get one. Umeme is the same as UEB. But the difference is one. UEB was parastatal. Umeme is a private company with people,
shareholders,
swindling the economy of the government. As what my brother said, that Umeme had no any equipment to install, but could earn money. The distribution was done by REA, Rural Electrification Agency, which was a parastatal. Umeme could only come and put in a transmitter or a meter. Only. But the poles, the wiring, the whatever was for parastatal. But only Umeme was oligopolistically enjoying when there is a blackout, you pay fine. When it goes off, you pay a fine.
Who pays?
The government. You go and check, record is there.
When it goes off, what do you mean? If power
you pay 45%. When the power goes off, you pay 45%.
I think what he's saying is
yes,
under that agreement,
yes,
government guarantees that we shall generate you power so that you collect. Now, in the event that we fail to generate you to collect,
and maybe explain some of the power cuts outages that are unexplainable and have complained about included in this program. Why? So people are doing deals.
Now us steadily and smartly. I repeat it. Now to root us steadily and smartly, buy out. What does buy out in Mekantairo roast mean? the contract has ended. Buyout. What does it mean? That language being exercised in Parliament.
Buyout could mean, it could mean that
I pay you, you get out.
no, you in lieu of leaving your contract, I give you money so that you go.
You go. What, didn't they get profits? Did they incur a loss that you are compensating? What happened? Buyout for who? And the buyout was a conflict of economic vampires.
That's correct.
The Parliament approving so much. Auditor General with so much. And other players with so much.
Yes, sir.
In $trillion. So,
Not true.
that one
Don't
was
exaggerate.
a target of making us fail to have electricity. Because when you enter into a loss, because we are receiving it back, having lost a lot of money. And now, the Attorney Generals, those Solicitor Generals and the Parliament legislators, they have their steady characteristic way of blindfolding us. When they are coming back to a mistake, they change words. UDCEL was supposed to be UEB. Because they knew that they are going to suffer embarrassment, they changed it to UDCEL, which is similar to Umeme. It is not a parastatal. You have lost with a private entity, sold back to a private entity. Where is the solution?
No, they think this is a government agency, by the way. That's the thing.
Limited by what?
Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited. I was also hinting on
By
that.
sayers.
Limited. The last part, limited.
We don't want only those words.
Limited.
Let them come out with articles and memorandum.
Okay.
If it has articles and memorandum of association, that one is not a
And maybe I think it would be very important for Comrade Awich to help us, partly formally as a part of government, but also true as a lawyer, because I find that actually much more intriguing. Because even the concept of buyout would actually be you're relinquishing ownership, you know. But you know, Umeme did not own Uganda's electricity. Umeme basically just came to contractually.
When you are buying
I think originally they controlled, they managed, you know, what part were they? So if they owned, then your statement would be the statement would be a contradiction about them not owning the poles and the wires and some of the other infrastructure. Yeah. So I think it's very important for us, for Ugandans, it's very important for Ugandans to know that Umeme is leaving the electricity generating back, leaving it to Ugandans, and it's going back to the hands of Ugandans. And so that the guarantee is that this funny company, you realize I'm not referring to, is equivalent to Uganda Electricity Board. Because if it's not, then I think we need to come back here and have another conversation.
But
because
also,
really,
is it a government agency? And
no, but that's the point.
That's what I was going to ask Honorable
Sure.
Awich. But before Awich you come through, there is a message for you. She says, salute to Mr. Vianney of UPM. I think we need to hear more of what the real UPM was. So kudos to yourself. Honorable Awich, what do you think of that particular, some of the submissions they have made?
Now, I want to also say that by the time Uganda moved from Umeme to something else, if my memory serves me right, there were 3 entities which you need to put bare. There was generation, which is separate. There was distribution, which was separate. And there is Umeme, which literally is just to read the meter box and collect the money. Okay?
Oh gosh, Jesus.
So there were the 3 entities.
Yes, sir.
So I needed that to come out because it could help in subsequent discussion. That is, I think I'm right there. So it is good to know these entities that a body was generating. That is to put the power into a container, let's say a pot. Generate this power, put it in a pot. Now from the pot, there was a body to distribute it. Now from distributing it, then there was a body to collect the revenue, which was the Umeme. Now, the detail of each operation, especially Umeme, was contained into the document that they signed with government. And this brings out the element of buyout. Buyout in this case, it is a provision under the contract or under the document. Like you have employer-employee relationship. Some employers have a provision that I am employing you for this. Should I want to terminate you, I will pay, I have a right to terminate you, but I will pay you 3 months in lieu.
Upfront.
Or some employees, some employers said, if you want to resign, pay me 3 months, because it is that money that I will use to recruit somebody else to replace you. So a buyout provision is just that I am tired of you, or I want you to go before your agreement, so therefore get this gender.
Okay.
Gender, that is the buyout spirit. Just like you see it in employment. Now, this then brings me to
just to add on the buying out, they had said that the buying was $190 million US. That was the first overestimated price. But according to the Auditor General, he said the buyout should not exceed 118 million. That's around 40 billion.
118. So there was that discrepancy in figures.
US dollars.
And I think Umeme accepted. What I don't know whether it was settled was that distribution was also claiming some money from Umeme.
Okay.
Because distribution was saying we distributed to you the power and you are supposed to collect this and pay us this much.
Okay.
And it looks like it was not. I hope it is settled. I trust that the persons in the theater are handling. So if the question to me was about the buyout, I believe I have answered it.
Okay. Who owns this new company? Do you know who owns the Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited?
No, it's a matter of law, so laws always you need to check. As my friend said, you need to check their legal status properly. But at that time I think it was done by some act of parliament. They were put by an act of parliament which established the distribution, established the generation, and this one. So we just need to. It's a long time past, and I can tell you that a good lawyer is not the one who crams the law, but knows where to get it.
Exactly.
So I think I need to check.
I will see if that entity is legally binding.
It's so legalistic.
Okay. Then we also have regulators. In fact, let me just call it this. Police and government agencies, specifically police and the barracks, have not been paying for power. And these are some of the reasons as to why some of the people are saying this is part of the compensation that is supposed to be paid by government. How do we trust the government that does not pay electricity to manage electricity? It's not only the service that they don't pay for, they don't even pay for water too. There are a lot of water bills that government has not yet paid for. How do we trust these people?
Okay, first of all, you are talking of regulators. I think for the sake of our viewers, when we mention regulators in terms of electricity, we need to make the viewers understand. There's what is called Uganda Electricity Regulatory Authority.
Yeah.
Now, this Uganda Regulatory Authority is also a birth by the law to do regulation like it does. Normal regulatory authority comes where there are many multiple players. You know that time came when we were using first hydropower and other power generated by, let's say, fuel, and power generated by solar. But also we had other generations starting, like Karuma, and then others in West Nile, or others in other places. And they are joined in a grid. There's a way they are joined in a grid. So because of the active members or players in the industry, government saw that there should be an authority. And we have had authority in other places. Like which other authority you could have?
There is a IRA, Investors Regulatory Authority, I think.
Or even
Retail
insurance.
Authority.
Even
Yes,
insurance
FRA.
regulatory. Insurance regulatory means you have so many private actors in the industry. So to regulate this industry, say for quality assurance or for healthy competition, you need a regulatory authority. So I just wanted us to be clear that when we use the term regulatory in this aspect, we mean that body.
Okay. Let's go to the
now,
people who don't pay the power.
Now, about payment of power, normally government authorities should be billed. And if it is billed, there should be a method of settling out between the government agencies. But at least there should be clear procedure that there's this consumption. Of course, government has a mandate over everything, but the mandate should be as per law. So I am not yet sure about a law that gives a government a consumption without paying. I know in the past, in the UPC days, government officers, for example, used to sleep in hotels. Then there were government hotels. And there's a way, I don't know how they used to settle it out. But some government officers would stay in a Serena, for example, for a year. Or in Fairway, which was government hotel, for 2 years. But all in all is that if this is an illegal consumption, then there should be enforceability. Enforceability to the extent that there should be a bill known, such that even if Mbuya Barracks is consuming this matter, it should be known that it has consumed, but it has not been paid. So I don't know to which extent there's this illegalities, or it is a wrongful accusation, because we can't judge without hearing the other side.
There is also an issue of mistrust. People do not mistrust any program, or some people do not mistrust programs that come from government. Now this one, nobody has even seen its fruit, but people are skeptical. Doesn't this worry you as a government, but also your legitimacy, to be that the populace that voted you does not trust you, even with a commodity that is communally consumed, such as electricity?
Of course, trust on government is a continuous and a perennial thing. I hope it is not on a lack of trust in the government of Uganda. I know some countries which really believe in their government because they see clearly where their taxes are going. And the accountability for each and every penny is almost given. I know governments like that. If you talk of a government like Singapore, you talk of a government like Sweden or Denmark, you know, those are ideal governments which are there, or Liechtenstein. But the lack of trust in the government is a big thing. And for us in the party, we keep saying it. We almost put it in our manifesto that we should do everything within our reach to gain confidence of the people. Lack of confidence of the people, the popular actions that we take, we must be a pro-people-based popular actions, and we win the confidence of the people. Now, if you approve that there is lack of confidence in that, then it is unfortunate. But normally, for you to allege such a claim, you must have a proper research done.
You're going to ask for sampling.
Yeah, that
how did I sample?
Yeah, so that we,
I think that's
so that we quantify, so that we quantify that a credible body did in terms of this. And but of course, we all know that one key areas why people have lost confidence is in corruption.
Exactly.
And there's a body called Corruption Perception Index, or Transparency International. Transparency International always does that research to prove. Unfortunately for Transparency International, I have really not been happy with their method of work. You know how they do it? The reporting of corruption in the newspaper. Meaning that should Uganda keep quiet, not to write about corruption,
Okay.
then transparency will say Uganda is non-corrupt.
Thank you.
I think is not valid enough. So they base it on the reporting in the newspaper. So if you got a country which can, for example, if Rwanda decided to suppress the papers, that even if PS has stolen this ministry, I don't want you to write. Even if PS has stolen that, I don't want you to write. If Rwanda successfully did it, it will be ranked as a very free. So that is the method.
Okay, thank you.
All in all, the corruption perception we have hands us low opinion from the populace.
Let me bring in Honorable Cheno. I request you comment on some of the issues he has raised, but also the independence of the regulatory body itself, the EUEDCTL. The independence of these people to make decisions, because the track record of this country has seen a leadership that is even unable to make decisions, a leadership that sometimes is compromised, where you know that you have to feed a certain person in order for your project to actually go through. I'm talking about that reality of the country today. How is this new company going to be independent? Can it actually be independent to make the decisions to say that this is what we have stood on and this is what we're deciding? Whether it affects the government, the people in leadership, how can they stand firm?
You know, immediately you call it company, which it happens to be, and now I am attempting to come to terms with the reality that Umeme must go, because seemingly it's going, for whatever reason, which may include the fact that it's going in order for some other mafia who would have already have made very good case to Mr. Museveni that it should go, so that, you know, these mafias reap the benefits that Umeme was reaping. In others, at the end of the day, Ugandans are still at a draw. That I would still console myself with it, possibly if it was local. I think much more important is you ask yourself, what public organization in this country is really independent? Just think about it. What public organization in this country is really independent? Comrade Awich, you know that is not true. And if you're trying to dare me, I will tell you that, you know, there is no public organization which is independent. One. Number two, there is no public organization, public body rather, where you would say the citizens have got reasonable confidence. Apparently, the nearest independent organization which had not been broken was National Waters. I relate with a number of senior people there, but I wouldn't actually call it still the cleanest organization. It's just an efficient organization. So,
and just to debunk some people who think that because we're having that argument earlier on, and some people think that the driving licensing body is actually, they were saying it's most efficient, and I want to inform them that this is not actually a government entity. This is a private contractor.
No, that
so
is absolutely.
People should know that.
Yes, and so it begs the question: where are Ugandans in all these things? You know, I'll politicize it to say that I really don't see any major change in this country unless and until we have a change of government. I'm afraid it is as stark as that, and it's not a political statement, but it's a factual reality statement. Now, Comrade Awich is right also to suggest that when normally governments would get very concerned if there is public opinion, there's a lack of confidence in them.
Yes.
But those are democratically elected governments. This one is not.
Oh.
You know, no, these guys came by force in 1986, entrenched themselves, and they've been using excess military power to the extent that you could see what is happening in Kawempe, where there was almost no need that, you know, even if NRM decided that they're not going to field a candidate in Kawempe and spend that money to take it to Sambe Hospital, since Sambe Hospital is a is a Catholic hospital that does fantastic job. Give it money so that we're able to help rescue some mothers who are going to produce children for us in the future. The government would not have been shaken. In any case, they would even have been hailed as being very kind. They would have said that Museveni is now nearly a mini saint. So it's unfortunate. My concern is that the Ugandans, so we Ugandans, sometimes pick these things topically, run with it, come midweek, we just hope that tomorrow we shall be having electricity, and that somewhere, somehow, Umeme and the government, settle this matter.
Okay.
Even if at stake is hundreds of millions of US dollars, which is basically our money. I can tell you that in the last 3 weeks,
Yes, sir.
power went off. And every time power went off, and I just didn't want to say this earlier, my account balance would go to zero. Now, someone else told me the same thing the other day. Now, it may not be very prevalent, to the extent, therefore, that I was asking myself, should I have a lot of power? One of my nieces was suggesting that we should have a lot of these things because these guys are very disorganized. So that tonight maybe we need to buy more.
That's what everybody is saying.
Then another argument, which did not come from me, but a sensible argument, was that it's actually possible that this could be Umeme's dubious Boer propaganda,
Yes,
to
sir.
make Ugandans buy as much as possible power for them, to make profit from us.
Maybe it's not.
I think whatever it is, we are not going to get confidence from this government today by them responding to our plea.
Thank you.
I think what is going to happen is that more Ugandans engaging more and more of this debates and conversation and recognizing that NRM has been around for 40 years, they've failed politically, they failed economically, they failed socially. To the extent that they came and found public bodies and broke them up and lost monies in billions. And that even Mr. Museveni recognized that some of these people should be in prison. We should simply say that, well, elections coming, let Ugandans mobilize and basically seek change. We change, and then in the course of the changing, we look at political parties and organizations with political visions and values that are able to re-stabilize our national economy and build and invest in our economies and in our peoples, rather than investing in dubious foreign friends called investors.
Okay. Innocent Ainebiona, thank you so much for watching. You say, and Umeme has quit with its electricity. We are in darkness. We are in darkness. And Vianney, are we also politicizing this matter?
No, we are not politicizing.
We are not.
This is economical.
Yes.
The economic matrix into this, there is this post here by Dr. Sarah Virete mentioning Musevenomics. That government of Uganda sold Uganda Commercial Bank to Stanbic Bank and Uganda Electricity Board to Umeme.
Yes.
Now the government is borrowing from Stanbic Bank, which bought UCB to pay Umeme, which bought UCB.
You see?
Now,
half what I was saying,
you sold to get profit.
Yes.
But you lost the profit. You are going to the one whom you sold to get a bailout, to pay and fulfill the argument you had for a buyout.
And if you don't mind,
what was the agenda?
Yes,
the economic agenda.
If you don't mind just adding that, nobody, and Edgar, you need to gain interest in this, and you hear young Ugandans, in all these sellings, can anybody tell you when we did this deal with Umeme, what the proceeds did? Like even Mr. Museveni in 2018 was asking, that Umeme was being given all this money. Where is the evidence that they built any infrastructure? Nothing. So it's actually a theft deal.
Okay.
It's a theft deal, and I repeat, it's a theft deal.
Please conclude, yes.
In conclusion, the economic agenda was to get scapegoats and a ghost company taking away the money and paying yourself. Because the target in the structural adjustments was to get profits. We should be getting from the treasury paying direct to Umeme
Yes, sir.
if it so needs. But now when you find that we are at a crisis, bringing back a government company, and you think it will be able with insolvency, if it has gone to the hands of this lawyer, that is, Uganda was going to be declared insolvent. When you go with insolvency in economic terms and law, you are not best to move anything.
Thank you.
This is why you see people, they are coming in softly because they fear. They fear because what we talk. In fact, you media people, warehouses people, you need thankers. Nobody whom you can invite here and comes. Because you yourselves, you are also worried. When whichever we produce out, you discredit.
Maybe. Okay, it's okay.
That's why people are coming
let me
in.
finish.
Yes, sir.
Let's end with the Honorable Awich, retired Major Awich. I'm going to conclude with you, but please answer the question that was made by this lady called Tahia. Please ask retired Major Awich his comment and opinion on the death of an expectant mother who lost her life and baby due to traffic lockdown associated with the president movement, especially in Kampala. Shout out to Honorable Mayanja Muzukuru wa Mukajanga.
Is it a question?
Yes, it was a question.
I have heard about the reported death of a woman, I think, who was being rushed to Zambia, but because the security had saved the road for the president motorcade, so he couldn't reach the hospital. Of course, every loss of life, even one in the country, is regrettable. I don't think even Museveni would be happy about it, and it will get to him anyway, and he will show his displeasure. But these are some of the security inconveniences. It therefore goes into maybe a wake-up call for the security training. Soldiers and police officers are trained on various aspects, including crowd management. Therefore, the security training of the Presidential Protection Unit will have to be apt to say in their course of duty, how do they take such exceptional situations of a genuine mother who does not pose a security threat, or who is not pretending to be pregnant but is a terrorist, because that would be the assumption. So it will call for training to cover such exceptional areas, and I think this will be an eye-opener. But generally, loss of a life, whether it's of a baby, of the mother, or an old man or young man, cannot be tolerated as a government. So it will be investigated.
Tanzania managed it. Nyerere, when he got independence, brought those who fought First World War and Second World War because of their age. And even the Kagera War, Nyerere didn't allow these young boys to command. Brought those of Second World War. Mnangagwa has bought it. When he, he got this CDF younger doing youngest, has brought of 72. So if there was this man of mine, shouldn't have happened. Because for us we operated in more suspicious situations. We didn't commit these. Here, where is an enemy here? Which causes so? Where is the highest terroristic suspicion?
Yes, sir.
Which is tense.
Thank you.
To make you, although they need to tell us, they are more cowards. That is cowardice.
Thank you. Honorable Chino, in a minute as we conclude.
No, it's very sad. As I was saying, I don't know whether I said it on air, that I experienced Mr. Museveni's convoy in Kabalagala the other day, I think just the other month.
Yes, sir.
And I saw these soldiers literally wanting to beat up people. Instead of just telling somebody that move away, they literally wanted to beat up people. And they were shouting at people and they were abusing people. here in Kampala, and they say, you're abusing Ugandans on their road because Museveni is leaving the other side to come and pass down here. Really, my God. No, my point is, whatever it is, what is it that Mr. Museveni fears in Kampala? You know, Kampala is not Juba, Kampala is not Kivu, Kampala is not Goma. Mr. Museveni is allegedly the president of the Republic of Uganda. He should be our man. And if he's genuinely revolutionary, he should be walking in the streets of Kampala and being hailed like Oito Jok was being hailed. But whatever happens, young Ugandans basically wake up. We need a future. We need a future.
We shall start from there, gentlemen. It's exactly 9 p.m.
This is
Okay,
concluding remark.
20 seconds.
In
Okay.
America, they depend much of people of this caliber. They don't depend much on those whom he is telling us of
Thank you so
training.
much for watching the Hotline Show. We've come to the end of this conversation. Just to note that I have also seen soldiers, especially presidential guards, also begging and pleading with people not to cross when the president is coming. I literally witnessed this, and this soldier was saying, please, and he's begging someone. I'm saying, this man has a gun and he's begging you, and you're not even realizing that. So we should also commend them. Thank you so much for watching. We shall see you again next Monday at exactly 7 p.m. We're always here having a conversation with Uganda. My name is Edgar Matthew Karhanga. Good evening, and God bless Uganda.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.